What's up, everybody? Broskadamus here, and we're finally back. It's been a long 4 weeks? I don't actually know how long it's been. It's been too long. To keep things short and unconvoluted, we've been very busy. And busy not in a good way. To spare the story, let's just say I don't want to go to hospitals anymore. I'm done being in hospitals. So, with that out of the way, nothing serious. Everything's good. With that out of the way, let's get back to the game. Finally. And maybe we can actually have regular uploads like I wanted 3 or 4 weeks ago. But you can't plan for these things, I suppose. So, make the best of it now, and we're back. So, I've had some discussions with Kyogre, and some looking at the forums and looking out various information sources, and I found that I should try something different. I had forgotten that the Paladin suffers very, very heavily in speed, and the changes to his Holy Cross, I believe that was the ability's name, renders it rather... I don't want to say useless, because it's not really useless, it's maybe a little overly nerfed. So I've decided that since I have never tried this, I thought that I would try an Archer Marsh. Eventually move him into Hunter. And it's a good suggestion. He works real well as a Hunter. And I've never actually tried it, so we'll see where that goes. So I'm going to start speccing him that way, and I often push more toward melee characters in these kind of games, and in almost all circumstances. And when I play games, I tend to favor melee. For whatever reason, I don't really know. But I tend to favor, maybe if I could talk, favor melee. And it might be detrimental to have too many melee, obviously. You can't all get on the target at once and attack it. Beyond 4 if there's nothing obstructing one of the squares. So let's go for some more ranged. And I can use, because of that revelation that apparently I'd never noticed playing all the way to this point, that you can use break abilities at range. And it turns out it works really well. I really enjoy it. So we're going to go with that. And you can see me editing Lucas here. You already saw me do Marsh. I'm editing Lucas here and making him a warrior since he hasn't leveled very long as a white monk, and I do have a higher level white monk that I'm going to use as a bishop later on. For this one, I'm going to move him back to warrior, so he'll have both abilities and hopefully push to Templar, if I didn't read that wrong. I believe that's the prerequisite for Templar. One of white monk and one of warrior. I think that's how that works. It could be totally stupid, and it could be 2 and 2, but for some reason it says, I feel like it's 1 and 1. If I'm wrong, I will annotate right here, so you'll see it, so you don't have to yell at me later. But feel free, until I put that annotation up, go ahead and yell at me. I'm asking for it. So, nothing super eventful in the gearing, just switching over Marsh, switching over Lucas here, and deciding what I want to push for first. I know that through the discussion as well with Kyogre, that it's probably better to have a Moogle as my enemist, though I already had that in mind. It's good to note here because I have been using a new Mao in his place for now, because I'm trying to actually unlock some of the newer classes. I believe it was Dark Knight? That's probably wrong. Don't say the name, you fucking idiot. Oh well. It's already been said. So I don't quote me on the name just yet. I have to go back and check the listings as well. I'm doing this later at night, so I haven't been able to keep up with it, and I'm kind of constrained for time. So, but I wanted to get this out. So we got that. I'm trying to push him to the newer classes first. If I can get him into the newer classes, then I'll be picking up the Moogle to go Animist with, because they are indeed faster. and you can get off more CC that way, and it's more useful. So we will be moving Colette into Sniper, if anybody's been wondering that, but I don't have any Sniper bows at the moment, and I feel I should get some of the more mainstream, useful Archer abilities before I jump her over to Sniper so I can use both. And we're taking a look at Ichabod here. He's going to be our Animist when we actually get around to using him, so I'm looking around at some of the abilities to gear him. I'm looking to use him in some dispatch missions so he can start learning some things outside of our battles. So aside from that, nothing real major in the changes of everything. I am trying to make a blue mage here with Oscar. And we're double checking Loki. He's going to be our actual white monk moving into a bishop eventually. Whether I make much use of the bishop is to be decided. I've got a ways to go in deciding what I like to play in this new mod here. Edmund here, he's going to be our... I don't want to say Dark Knight again because I don't know if that's right. I'm questioning myself now. He's going to be our new class. After we finish leveling him, he needs, I believe it was 2 Animist abilities. Ah, man, I suck. I shouldn't record in very thin time constrained areas. I don't do enough research in between those when I'm trying to rush. Anyway, we're trying to make him the new class, and it's 2 of Animist and 2 of something else. I want to say maybe one of the 2 mages. But we'll get to that. I'll be checking at the site again. So we're going to be picking up, I believe it was, well, it's a side mission. It's the Antlion Nest. And here we are. Believe this is the one. Nope. This is our... It's Village Hunt. That is our story mission that's going to continue us along. The no cancellation gives that away. Yep, so we'll be going to... I am sending someone out on a dispatch mission, trying to level behind our deployments. And we'll be doing one of our side missions here, and I do have another episode already recorded with the next side mission. I've actually been doing a lot of recording while all this stuff was going on over the past month, but I just haven't been able to sit down and actually record audio for it because of everything being so hectic and having to, I guess, be interrupted consistently. There's just, you can't really record in that sense. So, and it's partly in the fault of where I am right now. I'm in a room with animals, so they're loud. I have to organize and make sure that they're quiet while I record, and I am working around kind of a louder environment, so I'm very constrained to when I can actually record. But I'm hoping that after we move, which is relatively soon, can't say when, it will be much better, and the content will be much more regular, and I can actually get things out when I want to, and I can just sit down and record, and it won't be loud, it won't be having to work around schedules. It'll be great. Until then, I'm going to put things out as fast as I can, and as continuously as I can. And I appreciate everybody sticking around while I try to work around these schedules. And I will eventually be regular in the form of videos. So we've picked up our dispatch, we've picked up our optional side mission here, and we're going to save. Now we're going to double check on some gearing as we've been picking up some money here and there, and we're going to take a look and see if there's anything I can pick up for some of the characters here that have been sitting and not actually learning any abilities. I believe I pick up a bow with blind on it for Colette, the char bow. It's fairly cheap, and she's not learning abilities right now, so that's kind of a hindrance to growth here, and we should probably keep on top of it, so I decided to pick up the char bow for... I'm glad I did, though it's... Blind is a very expensive ability to use. it costs quite a bit of mana. And in some cases, you might be better off just locking somebody's leg down, but it is useful. I do attempt to use it a few times in the mission, and I do use it fairly effectively in the couple of times that I do use it, assuming when they hit, of course, because nothing's ever certain. So, as we double check over all of this armor, this is going to be a rather long episode, if you didn't already know that by checking the time of the video. I believe this one and the next one, not nearly as long. This one is pretty damn long. I sped it up a little bit more than usual to try to cut down on how long it is. So, without cutting out anything, just speeding it up some without too much detriment to the video, I hope. But I probably should have sped this section up. Though it's not really necessary, I don't think. The bulk of the video is the actual gameplay. So here's wanting to pick up some items for the monk, but I cannot afford them. So now we'll go equip the char bow on Colette. And here's me looking at sniper again, wishing that I had better items for it so I could use it right now. One thing that I do need is a fencer. I need to pick up a fencer. There is a dispatch quest for fencer only, and I believe we have it. And if we don't, we have it by next episode. But I believe we have it. I may have missed it here as we were going through this, going through the missions. But we're definitely going to need to pick that one up if we want to get that mission done. Trying to avoid random encounters. And here we are. And don't forget to save. Alright. This mission was pretty fun, actually. I enjoyed this one. There's a lot of enemies. And checking the laws, forbidden chivalry. So, I guess that's a sign from the gaming gods in RNGesus that don't play the paladin. You can have a paladin later, don't make Marsh a paladin. So that solidifies it. So I am bringing my standard frontline units, and Lucas is becoming one of those as the warrior there, since I've switched Marsh from his soldier to the archer. Now, I agonize a little bit over who to bring here. I think about bringing Ichabod to start leveling up some of his abilities, try to move him into the regular role of the Animist. But I am compelled to just play Edmund and use him for unlocking the rest of his abilities to get my 2 abilities and move into the new class, or the new job. Have I been calling it classes? Fucking idiot. It's jobs in this. I will be making that mistake constantly, so I apologize. Thank you, Marsh. I didn't see it at the beginning. Alright. So, for this one, the Antlions, still don't know how to pronounce that, all have counter, which is really obnoxious. The good thing is it's, you know, counter and not something like reflex, so I'm happy about that, but counter is still pretty brutal, considering it's retaliatory damage and something that they're not having to use their turn to take, and it's almost like everything's deciding that stop using so much melee, use more range so we stop countering you. So everything seems to be falling into place for me to change Marsh into range. And we do have Goblin Punch, which upset me. I am not a fan of Goblin Punch. I always seem to have the RNG against me on that one. It usually does more than necessary damage. So, looking at it here, we're looking at the Goblin and the Panther over here being able to move after our initial movement phase. So we have to make a decision. Do we try to lock something down now? Try to blind something? At this point, I'm checking percentage numbers here to see what will hit more, and they're both the same. Judging by the fact that the antlion here, Broskadamus, cannot use a ranged ability, it's probably just fine to try to pin his legs. And it costs 4 mana less. That's what I'm talking about when I say expensive. It doesn't seem like it, but it adds up pretty fast. And we got it. Off to a good start. So he's going to be locked down. It gives us a lot more freedom of movement as long as we don't move within his melee range. Now, the big problem is that goblin with his goblin punch. It's a pretty good ranged ability, and we're going to have to deal with that eventually. So, since most of our enemies are physical based, I believe, if not all, are physical based, I'm still unsure what goblin punch counts as. I think it's physical, but I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, we'll take on our protection here, and here's me remembering that it can be ranged, but being ranged, it might not work out being a 60% chance. Being on the flank offered me a better chance. Another 20%, so I took it. And we got speed break. And I'm taking the chance that the faster units below us there will have a turn, and I am right, before Broskadamus, but he will not be able to move behind us to attack us in the back, so we only have to deal with a side flank. I'm okay with that, especially with the fact that I have my Animus here. And he's going to get a turn before Broskadamus. So we're going to try to put him to sleep. We're also going to form up a line, so my weaker warrior here, who's fairly low level, will not be flanked. And while doing that, we can try to put Broskadamus to sleep, so he doesn't get a flank attack at all. And it lands. Excellent start so far. We have somebody locked down, slowed, and disabled. He's out of the fight for now. And we have aim legs with Marsh. I also brought along his soldier abilities to use. Right now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot I can do with Marsh. He's not as fast as my other archer. And he's kind of locked up. Not many places he can move. So instead, I'm just going to use him as a shore-up, since he is still pretty tanky. And there's not a lot that Yave can do either. Now we wait. The antlions move fairly slowly and don't have a lot of movement, but we do have to deal with the panther. And we're facing him, so we had a good chance to dodge. Now we're able to start moving along the flank. Deciding what to target next. I do want to target the panther next. He's fast, he's got a lot of movement, and he hits pretty hard. And we're able to lock him. First try. So far, the RNG is on our side. And the Goblin Punch. Now we find out. And it misses. Doesn't get any luckier than that at the beginning here. I was excited. Everything was going my way. So we'll throw some more protects since they've reached the front. And Colette's fairly squishy. Next antlion will move and he'll get a front attack on our Animist. And a critical. That pissed me off a little bit, but with all of our luck at the beginning with locking people down and whatnot, I wasn't too upset. It's not the worst thing that could have happened. Now we can take our speed break to another antlion. Successfully, and it leveled Lucas up. Now, the biggest fear on this mission appeared to be our Panther and our Goblin. If you did have to attack the Antlions, then I could totally see their counter being a problem. But the fact that we're not actually attacking them and we're just speed breaking and controlling, we were able to pretty much ignore them because of their small movement windows, or distance. Their small movement distance and how slow they are, so their turns don't come up often. So being able to speed break them made it pretty easy to control the antlions. They were kind of like pawns in chess. There's quite a few of them. They're not overly dangerous on their own, but if you didn't control them or you ignored them, they could do some damage. I think that's a pretty good analysis of that. They're not overly threatening, but definitely if you left them alone, they would start flanking you and dealing some pretty good damage, and you wouldn't be able to fight back directly because of the counter. So the Panther and the Goblin were the focus, though I was forced to control the Antlions in this case because they were here first. You can't ignore them and let them start dividing and conquering your units. So I was forced to deal with them first, but I was lucky enough to be able to lock the Panther down so he didn't get to run around and do as he pleased. But the Goblin still is left alone. We were able to speed break him. Going for another one. And we got it. Another level up. So we've landed all of our aim legs so far. Thank God. And we pretty much have all the Antlions locked. I would argue that the Goblin is the most threatening enemy here. Well, it is dangerously the Panther alone because of how fast he is, and he's able to move very, very far and hit pretty hard. The Goblin has ranged abilities. Luckily, we did get the low end of the Goblin Punch on that one. For once. Usually it's overkill. But the Goblin is in a position where we're able to attack him effectively finally. So I've decided that I want to kill him first, but he's a little bit far and kind of positioned poorly to be able to strike from the flanks with my archers here. It's kind of a decision that I had trouble making. It just wasn't something that I could do, so I had to lay in and reduce speed on the Panther. Checking the Panther stats showed that his speed wasn't reduced. That's what I used to check. I actually recently just figured that out. I'd never thought to check the stat page. I didn't know it actually reflected on the stat page like that, so it's actually very useful. Found out a couple of weeks ago, maybe? I probably knew it when I played this game originally, but I just didn't remember. But in any case, it's useful if you didn't already know to check their stat page, and you can actually see the number reflected in red when it's reduced, so you know not to have to speed break the target again. Now, at this point, it can go either way. I could take on the Goblin, or I could take on the Panther. The Panther is locked down, the Goblin is a bigger threat. And I did get a lucky crit there for once. And it seems to be my archers the only ones that are critting. But keeping the Goblin locked down is a lot more difficult because he needs to be asleep, because he has the ability to Goblin Punch. So locking down the Panther and leaving it alone makes it so I can take on the Goblin. But the problem is the Goblin is so far away that I can't really move my units close enough to be effective. And leaving that Panther alone, he'll eventually come out of the crowd control, and he's got a lot of movement, and I really don't want to leave him to rush my White Mage. And judging by the turn list here, he'll be coming out of his movement impair very, very soon. In fact, that miss, that becomes noticeable for everything else. And he kills him. The dodging becomes very noticeable on this Panther, and very annoying very quick. So I take a chance to immobilize, and then it misses. It misses the time when I need it. When I need it the most. So we're gonna go ahead and miss again. Now, this Panther's becoming an issue, considering he's free to do as he pleases. He is slowed, but he's free to do as he pleases, and the Goblin is still not locked down. Slowed as well, but not locked down. And we missed the sheep count as well. Things are not going well with keeping that Panther locked. So that's when I make the decision. We need to start redirecting our efforts to make sure that he stays down. I was a little more worried about taking out, say, the Goblin. So I was making moves to go take on the Goblin and kind of ignoring the Panther, but in this case we've released him, and we need to make sure that we're spending resources to lock him back down. And judging by the fact that I'm having trouble with mana on Colette, we're individual down. So I take a chance to revive my warrior here, Lucas, in the hopes that he'll draw some fire, but I didn't actually expect him to draw fire that well. I thought maybe he was going to be goblin punched, but he actually moves within range of us to punch him to death. So we've actually brought him back in toward my units now. I'm fairly happy with that, but I would have liked it if Lucas hadn't died, of course. But because of the fact that we have revive on our white mage, it's no item loss, and I'm happy with reviving and losing an enemy. I'm happy with a little bit of sandbagging to do it. No real incredible loss for us there, since it's repeatable. And we do get another critical on our animist, on Edmund. He's taken 2 criticals and hasn't died. What a man. Alright, so we are looking at just enough to use an aim leg, so I'm trying to figure out whose turn will be coming up first. And it is the Panther. And because of that, I do choose to take damage on the Goblin, since he won't be having a turn for a little while. We might be able to take him down. The major issue I faced here was I couldn't figure out what I was afraid of more. The fact that the Panther was able to actually move around and apparently dodge all of my abilities, and do so easily and do so much damage, it just made me worried. I wish-washed back and forth a little bit, trying to figure out if I wanted to kill that first while it was locked down, or kill the actual Goblin. And just because of the fact that we're able to lock the Panther down here, even if the Panther's going to get a turn, we're leaving Yaveh to take the hit, like he did just then. But him taking the hit means that we can just throw raw damage at the Goblin, like this. And because of that, we're able to save up mana, and we don't have to lock the Goblin down again, and we can just lay into him with all of our attacks, hoping to kill him before his turn comes up. I feel like that was the right choice in this instance, but I mean, it could have been done differently, I'm sure. And we did finally land another crowd control, putting the Antlion back to sleep, so we have all 3 under control again. So it leaves us to be able to attempt to finish off the Goblin. Gotta land that 75%. And we do. And just like that, I'm relaxed. That was the only trouble factor, having those 2 enemies still alive, the Goblin and the Panther. And because of the fact that, here's one of the blinds I was talking about, and it misses. Because of that fact, both of them were kind of wild cards. You weren't really sure which one should die first. Depending on your situation, it's going to change. But I chose to kill the Goblin because he had ranged options, and the fact that we were able to lock down the Panther a second time before he could do too much damage. This will probably play out differently for you guys when you guys are playing it, but this is what I found to work best for me. And the fact that we haven't hurt the Panther, I will be using some heals on the Panther. And we did luck out with that movement for a change on the Judge. I thought maybe he would move my warrior and cause an issue for me reviving him. But he didn't. Sadly, the Panther does turn and create an issue with attacking him because I have nobody behind him. But that's okay, he's still locked down, he doesn't get to command a position of any kind, and we can attack him on our own terms. And apparently miss on our own terms as well. So checking the turn order, we're going to have another antlion coming up soon. And it's at this situation where I thought about perhaps waking him up myself and then using my units that are still to come, put him back under. I don't end up doing it this time, but it is a good strategy. I've only used it a few times, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really good, especially when you have such a speed boost on the targets and you know that your crowd control unit will be coming up next. You can try to land another crowd control attack on him and control him right out of the gate before maybe having some units mispositioned in regards to when he's going to wake up. But it all comes down to the situation. Sometimes it's not necessary to wake them up, because when you wake them up, obviously their turn will come sooner, so it's something to keep in mind, because if you do miss those crowd controls, he will still get his turn either way, and you've woken him up early. So it's all down to preference and play, of course. And we are able to land a front attack. And we're going to move away from him so he doesn't get free attacks since he is crowd controlled, and there's our antlion awake. I am glad that he chose to attack Marsh. Kind of surprised, but glad that he attacked Marsh. I don't want him attacking Colette. She's fairly squishy and undergeared right now. And again, moving away from the Panther so he doesn't get free attacks. Also trying to group up my wounded units together so we can get a good group heal off on them. And at the same time, put that antlion back to sleep. The rolls are on my side tonight, for a change. I'm glad. And it's going very smoothly. And I'm really liking the playstyle having two archers. I don't usually like to use archers all that much, but I am really liking the playstyle having the two archer range characters for their maneuverability. And that antlion is going to wake up soon, so we put him under with a aim leg freebie. And the Panther does free up and start moving again, and start smacking around our Hanimist. In any case, I am glad that I enjoy the playstyle of the archers. I wasn't sure that I would, but I actually do. I actually really enjoy it. It was, at the very beginning, that whole flanking maneuver to the right where all of my archers were moving to the right steadily just really reminded me of like ancient horse archers just swarming around infantry and just pelting them to death. I don't know how many of you played Rome, Total War, the original one, or any of the Total Wars, and how absolutely aggravating horse archers can be. If you have, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're lucky you don't. Because it's never your horse archers. It's always the enemy horse archers. But it really does remind me of the Parthians and the Romans fighting one another, and having the Parthians basically ride the Romans down because the Romans weren't prepared for horse archers of the East. But it just felt so solid to use it like this. I really like it. I wish I'd tried Marsh as an archer sooner, or just more archers in general, but as you can see, we've taken down the Panther without too much trouble. And from here out, we have one more antlion that's going to be waking up, but we just locked him down again. Oh, pardon me, he's already woken up, but he's still locked down, so his next turn is coming up. And using the groups to heal there for Darcy. But we're only down to the antlions, and at this point, there's not a whole lot that can stop me. And that's not coming from a position of arrogance, that's coming from a position of there's just nothing these antlions can do. They don't offer a whole lot in the way of threats by themselves, and that's how we're fighting it. We're keeping them by themselves. It's just a good motif to go by, is, you know, divide and conquer. When one can't fight you effectively, take him on one by one. I mean, if you left them alone and let them all run around on their own, yeah, those 3 guys would mess you up. They would be something you'd have to deal with and fight attrition-wise, and that's not how I like to fight, so I lock them all down and kill them one by one. Just easier. I come from playing a lot of Souls games, and if you don't know that terminology, you haven't played any. But Demon Souls and Dark Souls 1, I haven't played Dark Souls 2, it didn't interest me that much, but Demon Souls and Dark Souls, I played so many Souls games that it's always the idea of divide and conquer. Because if you take on more than one enemy, chances are it might be too much, depending on your skill level and what character you're playing, of course, but it's always safer to take on those enemies one by one, and that whole idea has kind of perpetuated in other games that I play. I always try to control and be perceptive about things and try to make the fights bend to my will and to fight on my terms. But that's just my playstyle. Everybody has different ways of playing the game, and none of them are wrong. I mean, I guess I can't really say none of them are wrong, because, I mean, if you just get wrecked, I guess maybe that you did it wrong. I guess that would be the instance where you were wrong. But I mean, if you play the game and you beat it and everything, you can beat it if you want. You know, it doesn't really matter how you play. You want to just run straight through shit and kill everything like a madman, you can go right ahead. You want to take it slow and methodical, you want to make everybody ranged characters and beat the game, do whatever you want. It is up to you. Don't let anybody tell you how to play a game. That's kind of the whole point. It's a game, you play it. Don't have somebody tell you how to do it. It's more fun that way. So we are getting low on mana, I've noticed here. It doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen very often, mostly because if it does, I'm probably losing attrition-wise, and that's bad. But here is our freebie lockdown for aim leg, and here's the instance that I do actually make use of blind. And blind making it more difficult for the antlion to hit us, and blind making it more difficult for him to dodge us as well, so I'm able to actually strike him from the front and the flanks much more effectively. And it's definitely useful to use that, especially when you can get a freebie landing of it because he's asleep. And it does speed up our final kill. And I really appreciate that, so I'm actually able to line everyone up here and be okay with attacking him from the flanks and the front relatively safely without having to worry about, you know, those really unfortunate misses. So I'm able to bring Yavei up here and get a nice strike from the front, which normally wouldn't be very reliable. We're going to continue to finish him off here, and as we finish him off, there's not much more to say. This mission was actually a lot of fun, and really liking the more ranged character playstyle. I might have to tweak my playstyle a little bit more and try out some new stuff, because I've been kind of set in my melee mode. So with the completion of that mission, that's pretty much going to do it for us. And I do have the next episode already recorded. I do need to sit down and actually record the audio for it. That should be coming up tomorrow relative to this video, tomorrow or the next day. But I'm hoping that that's going to be the start of my actual regular content again. Please, please, no more random events, please. And we do pick up a Mog Knight. And we do take him. I want the Mog Knight. I don't have one, and he's a new class I can mess around with. And Loki completed, bringing back Cat Claws and the Black Thread. So we will have more missions to complete in the next episode, and we pick up another Animist. We'll talk about that later. But as far as this episode goes, we are done, and I'd like to thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Later.